How to get a job with no experience. You know, this is something that I put out a public opinion poll, and some people say that it can't be done. It can totally be done. It just can't be done in every possible situation. There are some jobs where you just need experience, and that's just it. That's what they look for, and that's what they need. But a lot of jobs, you'd be surprised how you can get around that requirement if you know what you're doing. Let me put it this way. The first thing you need to know is that you have experience, you just don't have work experience. All the things that you're going to be required to do on a job is very similar to the tasks that you had to do in your education. You had to be punctual, you had to have a good work ethic, you had to submit things on time, you had to work with groups, you had to collaborate, you had to go and find information, you had to learn new things, you had to apply yourself, all that stuff you had to do previously. So that's what you're going to be doing in your job. And the first thing is to recognize that you have all the experience you need for most jobs for you to do it. You may not know the expectations and the culture of how they do things at that particular organization, but that will come. You can do the job. Secondly, why do people hire the candidates that they hire? Usually, it's not down to raw qualifications. In some exceptional cases it is, but in literally 98% of all situations, the candidates are chosen not because of their raw qualifications, but because of who they are as a person. Their soft skills. How often does someone get hired who is qualified to do the job, but nobody can work with them? Nobody can communicate with them. They have a negative attitude. They don't seem to be excited about the job. They don't have any passion for what they do. They don't know anything about the company, and they don't get along with the interviewer. How often does that happen? I'd say practically never. So that's the reason why people get hired. Because at job interviews, usually the way it goes is that the people that have been invited to the job interview are qualified candidates. They're all qualified. On paper, they can all do the job. They all have the minimum requirements, they all have what they need to be able to do the job. You now have to choose between them, and the way you choose between them is by considering who they are as a person. That's why they bring you in for an interview and see what you're like. They ask you questions. They ask you all these weird cryptic questions about the things that they do, like what amount of money do you need, even though technically they shouldn't ask that because it's already been decided. There's a range. They ask you about your previous jobs. Why should that matter? They ask you about your attitudes towards where you're going to be in the future, or what do you think is your greatest strength or your greatest weakness. Tell me about yourself. Introduce yourself. I mean, you know, why would they ask that when they already have your resume? When you think about it, those questions are not really adding the value that they have at face value. They're asking those questions to try and get to know who you are. Are you easy to talk to? Are you likable? Do you have charisma? Or do you have a negative attitude? Are you upset? Are you impatient? Do you have a bad temper? Do you misinterpret what people say to you? This kind of thing. This is what they're really trying to find out about you. And that's what purpose those questions serve. So that's the basis on which they select people. They select between candidates who are all qualified to do the job. So having said that, how do you get a job with no experience? Well, think about it. If you have the education, and in the course of your education, you have done all the things you need to do to be able to do this job. And then on top of that, you have all the soft skills you need. You're likable, you got the right attitude, you're passionate about this work, you want to work for the company, you're easy to get along with, you can collaborate with other people, you can communicate, you don't say inappropriate things or don't understand what an appropriate behavior is and what isn't. If you have all that stuff, you'd be a good candidate for the job. So it's a matter of communicating that and showing that to the decision maker at the organization. I put out a public opinion poll recently about how do you get a job with no experience. And most people got what I believe is the correct answer. You contact the hiring manager proactively, not the recruiter, not after they posted the job, but you look for organizations or companies that have not yet posted a job, but are probably looking for someone like you, and you contact the hiring manager proactively. Who's the hiring manager? They're a manager, they're a decision maker. They have the authority to hire someone. You reach out to them. And you basically say, hello, I'm here. I can do this. I can solve this problem. If you're ever looking for someone like that, please let me know. I'd love to work for you. And there you go. That's an extremely powerful way of getting hired, especially when you don't have a lot of experience. And you would not believe the success stories that some people have had with doing just that.